Why is Taiwan so much richer than China? China is a vast country with a massive population, abundant natural resources, and numerous geographic and economic advantages. And to be completely honest, Taiwan doesn't really have any of these things. And yet, the true extent of Taiwan's wealth comparatively absolutely blows away most people's expectations. So how could this tiny island possibly outshine a country that most experts just a few years ago were predicting would eventually eclipse the United States? And in order to answer that question, we need to rewind the clock back to the Chinese Civil War. In the aftermath of the Chinese Communist Party's victory over their KMT rivals, China was divided into two competing states. On the mainland stood the People's Republic of China under the rule of Mao Zedong. On the other side of the Taiwan Strait stood the Republic of China, under the leadership of the KMT forces, which had been driven into exile. Now, both of them claimed to be the legitimate Chinese government, but with the CCP unable to take control of Taiwan and the KMT reduced to a rump state on a tiny island, the Civil War effectively came to a standstill. And just like how the division between North and South Korea allowed for two radically different systems to be tested, the separation between China and Taiwan led to a similar experiment taking place over the next 70 years. Now, China began this experiment with nearly every advantage you could possibly think of. It has a population that's 60 times larger than Taiwan, a landmass that's 267 times larger. The geography of China itself gives it a huge advantage over Taiwan. The Chinese mainland boasts some of the richest farmland in all of Asia, with 3 vast rivers providing easy access to inland trade and energy for the country. In fact, one of these rivers is now home to the world's largest power plant. And to top it all off, China also enjoys large supplies of coal, oil, and lithium, giving the country a set of natural resources that are valued at over $23 trillion. And yet, despite all of these advantages, Taiwan is still richer than China. But how much richer? Well, the median Taiwanese citizen is one of the richest people in the world with a net worth of over $100,000 per adult. That makes the typical person on the island of Taiwan nearly 4 times richer than a person living on the Chinese mainland. Despite having the second largest overall economy in the world, China has a GDP per capita that's 3 times poorer than Taiwan's. And Taiwan doesn't just outshine China when it comes to net worth. The island has a standard of living that's technically even higher than the United States. China isn't even on par with war-torn Ukraine, heavily sanctioned Iran, or economically devastated Sri Lanka. So, how could this possibly happen? Because for all of its weaknesses, Taiwan enjoys one of the freest markets in the world. It's a place that's easy to invest and innovate. It has laws protecting private property, a government that defends the rule of law, and a people who have been left free to pursue their dreams. In contrast, China's communist economy is completely dominated by the CCP, with inefficient state-owned enterprises and restrictions on what you can trade, where you can invest, and what you can do with your own time, talent, and money. It has immense resources and a large population, but those things are virtually worthless when your country's entire economy is dominated by a political elite that is more concerned with holding on to power than the overall well-being of their citizenry. And ultimately, what this demonstrates is that the most valuable economic resource is people, left free to create, innovate, collaborate, and compete with one another in a system that actually allows them to benefit from their own productivity.